And fans, we're here for another week of sports chat. We're in a very brief period where local sports are at a very slow point. The Lady Cougars bowed out of the region against Farragut this weekend. Spring sports they're practicing, but there's not been any games yet.
Yeah, it's sort of the quiet before the storm of spring starts. But spring, quite a few sports end up taking the field, the track,
The tennis,
the court,
the baseball, the softball, the soccer.
various diamonds. Probably the most active of all the seasons. In fall, you pretty much have cross country and football and girls
Golf.
soccer and golf going. In winter, you really only have basketball going, and on the girls and boys side, that's about it. Since most sports have to be played indoors, you also have volleyball in the fall. But spring, you got all your track and field, which that in and of itself is 15, 20 different events most of the time. I say baseball, softball, boys soccer, tennis, just a bunch of stuff going in the spring, but it's getting ready to start probably in, I would say next week, the first week of March, they should start having spring contests
I think Gracie said that maybe the second was their first track meet.
sometime around in there. But it's pretty quiet on the high school. As you said, Farragut, really tough team to play. The girls had to go play at Farragut.
That's a tough gym to play.
It's tough. It's just tough. But they did make the regional round. I'm proud of them. They made a deep run to the district tournament and got into the regionals. And Farragut, I expect to probably make a.
Well, our entire district was put out that night in the regional round.
I mean, often that district, which is known as the SEC of football districts because of its tough football, there's a lot of big schools in that district. And in basketball, instead of going up a level, you stay the same. There's just 1, 2, and 3A in basketball. So you get Farragut, schools like that have 2,500 kids in them, which is probably 1,000 more than Campbell County has. You still have to play the same level of competition against them. You don't have a separation like you do in football where Maryville and Farragut, everybody goes up another level. They stay the same in basketball, which is a big advantage when they have that big of a school and that many more students to choose from.
And of course, the boys bet out in the district, but our district's boys did a little bit better at least.
Oak Ridge was really, really good and hosted a regional. I'm not surprised that they did as well as they did. Just a very good overall team and have the potential to make some noise at the state level here in the next week or two. Other than that, I say high school's quiet, middle school, not really anything going on. Middle school has track and field. I'm not sure if they have any other spring
Golf.
sports. Golf.
Middle school golf's a spring sport rather than a fall.
I'm not sure that middle school, how many track and field events they have or how many different ones they have. I know they'll host one up here at Campbell County at some time in the spring. I think there's a middle school softball team maybe that combines both of them, and a middle school baseball team that combines both of them.
I talked to, while we were at Charlie's, and I talked to Brian Miracle, who helps Coach Browning, but is also the head middle school coach. And he said he was going to get us a schedule, and Lindsey Tomlin's supposed to get me a girls' schedule.
They usually play up here at the high school for baseball, and the girls softball plays, last I knew, over at East a lot when they're at home plate. So there's stuff to do, but it'll be starting over in the next few weeks, weather permitting, up and down weather this time of year, lots of rain, thunderstorms and stuff.
So a little bit of snow coming.
Snow, we're in that up and down transition time, so pending weather, you should have some outdoor spring sports to watch here starting, I say, in the next week or two. Other than that, we are staring down the barrel of March Madness. And
The
it's
best postseason in sports.
literally madness for me because Tennessee, after the just horrible loss at Texas A&M, inexcusable, Texas A&M was ranked 140th. You can't lose that game, especially can't get swept by them.
The way Conzo lost it.
Same guy ends up making the game-winning shot in both games. The guy's made 4 3-pointers against Tennessee, but he's only made 9 the entire season. So pretty much half his 3-pointers came against Tennessee. Basically the same shot that he took and beat Tennessee in Knoxville, he beat Tennessee in overtime with. And Martin, he called the timeout. I can't blame him for calling timeout. He should have called it with, 8 or 9 seconds to go instead of letting 7 seconds run off the clock while, Richardson and Barton dribbled around like mad. But when he called the timeout under 3 seconds, you pretty much had to let it play out at that point because you're not usually going to get a good look. And of course, it took the 3-pointer that would have won the game off the board. Amazingly, Tennessee still got another chance to win, but Darnell Stokes couldn't make the free throw and blew that one. Then Martin fell apart in overtime, as his teams are wont to do this year, last 2 years. But in Jerry Palm's bracketology, Tennessee fell not only off the bubble, they were an 11th or 12th seed. They fell out of his first 4 out. That's how far that Texas A&M loss put them down. This team, I know I rant about it every week, this team has got the number 4 scorer in the SEC in Jordan McRae, maybe up to number 3. He's somewhere around there. He averages 20 points a game. He's a first-team All-SEC guy. And Darnell Stokes is a first-team All-SEC level player. Darnell Stokes is averaging 15 points and I think 11 rebounds a game in the SEC.
When you're averaging a double-double per game.
Yeah, I mean, that's spectacular numbers in a college game with the limited time you have on the floor to average 15 and 11. And Jerome Mayman, everybody's talking about him not being what he was. His breakout year, he averaged 12.2 points a game and 8 rebounds a game. This year he's averaging 11 points and 8 rebounds a game. It's not that big of a difference. Tennessee generally has what most announcers call the best front court in the SEC. And they have Jordan McRae, who's probably the best shooting guard in the SEC. To be in 4th, 5th place in the league, struggling along at 500, losing the games you shouldn't lose to, that's ridiculous.
Right. I mean, obviously Florida's, much as I hate to say it, really good this year.
Yeah.
But outside of that, we really probably should be the best team.
Florida's really good. Kentucky's been a pretty big disappointment this year with their pretty much NBA talent that's going to be gone again after next year, but they're not going to get much to show for it. It doesn't look like unless they get hot in the tournament. Outside of that, the SEC's terrible. The SEC may only get those 2 teams into the league. I mean, Tennessee should have probably conservatively went 13-5 in this league this year, and that's conservatively. They have enough talent, and it's veteran talent. It's not like we have young talent. I mean, McRae and Darnell Stokes is a 6th-year senior. McRae is a senior. Darnell Stokes is a junior. Willie Barton, the point guard they brought in, is a senior. You're loaded with experienced veteran talent, and it's ridiculous to be playing at this level. I don't see any way Martin can survive.
You can't spell Martin without NIT.
That's unfortunately true. He's never made the NCAA tournament to be a 6th year as a head coach. It's just ridiculous. Rumors come out this week that said Bruce Pearl was campaigning behind the scenes to try to get the job back. If that's true and the administration doesn't hire him, and I've been watching Tennessee basketball my whole life. I can remember being a little kid listening to John Ward calling games, and it was Willie Burton and Dale Ellis and people like that playing for Tennessee at the time. This is like now, 30 years ago, early 80s. And I can remember from this, just being a kid, that's what I liked it as much as I like football and I always have. And I went through rough times with Wade Houston. We're going 5-22. But if Bruce Pearl wants this job back and he doesn't get this job, I'm done. I'm done with Tennessee basketball.
I'll put it to you from a different perspective. I don't like basketball. I don't like basketball above the high school level for the most part. If I could help it, I never missed a Bruce Pearl UT game.
No, it was great basketball. Something to be proud of. And that's it. He was at an event yesterday in Nashville. Come in, he was wearing orange and white. He said, I'm a former Tennessee coach. I love Tennessee. I'll wear it. He said, you got to support Coach Martin. He said, I'm not campaigning for the job, but you got to say that. He said, give all your support to Coach Martin. Hope Tennessee makes the tournament. Pretty much said all the right things, but it's clear that Bruce Pearl would like to have this job.
And I watched the video. Clay Matthews made a heartfelt plea to the man.
Yeah. He pretty much begged him to come back, which I don't really like Clay Matthews. He's a Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm not saying I like Clay Matthews, but I mean he made a heartfelt plea.
Oh yeah, I mean it's just it angers me greatly to think that you wouldn't go all out to get Coach Martin or get Coach Pearl back. He makes millions of dollars in revenue difference, $5, $6, $7 million a year in revenue. The petition to bring him back. Just ground roots guy, a poster on Hoopsville, the message board for Tennessee. He started that petition like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. It's got 20-something thousand signatures, like 22,000 signatures. There's enough people signed at the Phil Thompson Bowling Arena.
I read a thing today. I thought this was brilliant. If they said this is what the season ticket holders should do to make a statement. Just walk into the game, set a picture of Bruce Pearl down on their seat, and leave.
Basically, it's going to boil down to whether there's boosters that are on his side. From what I understand, there's quite a few boosters that actually still really like Pearl and like to have him back. That's also the rumors that Jimmy Cheek, the president of UT, doesn't like Pearl at all, but it rolls downhill from the money, and the money puts enough pressure on him, he'll be back, or at least get offered the job. You got to at least offer him the job. I mean, I don't know if it's true about the rumor that he wants to come back, but if it in any way at all is true, you've got to get Martin out of here and offer that job to Pearl. We'd have been better off sticking with Pearl and fighting the NCAA. As I said before, Miami fought the NCAA, and the NCAA turned out to be toothless. And whenever you stand up the NCAA, Jerry Tarkanian stood up the NCAA back years ago. And the NCAA, I want to say they tried to ban him from coaching. And he sued the NCAA and settled for millions of dollars. The NCAA doesn't have a leg to stand on when it actually comes to it. They're not actually a governing, legal, law-making body. And they overstepped their bounds. Like in the Miami case, they were seizing bank records and stuff like that. They don't have the power to subpoena bank records of coaches and things like that.
It's just like when they did what they did to Penn State.
No, well, they
punished a program that the kids that had nothing to do with that.
They rescinded a bunch of those penalties. They completely overstepped their bounds in the Penn State situation. Penn State, the people that did that, committed those crimes, they went through this court system. They were put in jail. And the civil liability, Penn State's most likely going to have to settle for millions of dollars to those victims. And that's the way it should be handled. The NCAA has nothing to do with that.
I mean, I'm not a fan of Penn State. I'm not a fan of child rape. But, it's not the NCAA's business.
Yeah, I mean, the NCAA is not any kind of government-sanctioned body, anything. It's just an agreement between the schools. And they overstep their bounds a lot. They have no consistency. There's no, I mean, Pearl jaywalked and got 25 years in prison. Other coaches commit murder and get nothing, like John Calipari. Leave programs in ruins and wreckage.
UMass never recovered from that man.
No.
Memphis hasn't exactly recovered from him.
No, Memphis had everything. They had their Final Four, all that stripped away. And Calipari can claim he didn't know. You know better than that, though. Anybody with sense knows better. Calipari's smart enough to use his middlemen in the right way. He gets away with it. And Frank Haith, from when he was at Miami, he told 4 different stories to the NCAA. At least 3 of them had to be alive before he finally told the truth. I mean, my gosh, he told literally 4. It said that in the NCAA report that he said he had multiple versions of the story, and finally come out and said, "Well, the truth is," and then told him he paid the booster $100,000 back for the money the booster had been paying the players. 5-game suspension, nothing from the SEC. Pearl didn't even violate a rule. He didn't violate the bump rule. They claimed a report came out that he supposedly did, and it turned out to be untrue. But he's still got an 8-game SEC suspension for it.
That's a secondary offense.
Yeah. And I looked at the list of people who have ever gotten show causes from the NCAA. It's for things like the Baylor coach who covered up murder and was paying his players to tell lies about he paid and coerced his players to lie about the guy that got shot and said he was a drug dealer and all this stuff. And he was buying players left and right. Chip Kelly got a show cause at Oregon, where he'd paid thousands of dollars to the talent scout in Texas to send players to Oregon to play. It was all major violations. Everyone who'd ever gotten a show cause had major violations, usually involved paying players or buying players or paying people to get players to come to their school. Bruce Pearl got it for a secondary cookout violation, which is not a violation anymore because they looked at the rules and said, "Well, my God, it's stupid not to allow them to go to cookouts. Well, let's take that rule out of the rule book," after they gave Bruce Pearl a 3-year show cause. You figure roughly that cost Pearl $6-8 million, maybe more than that according to how he recovers from it. But he's a hot commodity. Apparently multiple schools have already petitioned the NCAA to hire him back.
Supposedly 2 SEC schools.
2 SEC schools have been contacted. I'm not sure which 2 it is.
They don't tell who it is, but we know there's 2 schools.
A lot of people say it's Alabama or Auburn. If Pearl got hired at Alabama, good grief. I can't imagine the fallout for UT. There should be a lynch mob over there to get everybody in the administration run out of that place.
It should be 10 times what happened when skip town.
Oh,
They should be burning. They should be burning Jimmy Cheek and living effigy in the street.
you got to pull a Mussolini on him at some point. But that's the only way to make it known. I mean, it's become a deafening cry now that this Pearl coming back stuff, and Pearl's got all the power over
I mean,
UT. He's loved.
if any of you are on Twitter during any Tennessee ball game, the hashtag starts trending. Bring back Bruce.
It's a sad state usually because Tennessee ball games are going terribly bad at any given moment. But yeah, it's such a big money maker for the university. So much better. I mean, we used to be wondering, are we going to get a 3 seed, a 4 seed? Are we going to get a favorable bracket to play in this year? Now we're like, gosh, I hope we can get in as a 12 seed and maybe get in the play-in game. Probably not going to be able to manage that. Looks like the NIT again. That's a big step off. The NIT, I would rather get beat by 100 points in the first round of the NCAA tournament than win the NIT. The NIT is pointless. It's a complete futile exercise. It's not worth even having. I don't know why schools still participate in it. That's how worthless it is. I mean, every week I do this, I get frustrated. That's about, spring practice will be starting soon for UT football as well. Saw a few articles about it lately.
And apparently the legal matters of the players have been resolved.
That was very minor and got blown out of proportion. It's something you had never heard about if it didn't involve football players, but it does, so you're going to hear about it. But basically they were playing music too loud at the party, and some security people showed up.
We just called that a good weekend at the LPV.
Yeah.
We were football coaches, not players.
We were more responsible than the players. But it was a minor incident. I'm sure there's probably going to be laps around or something like that for it, but that'll be about it. NFL Combine started up. Freakish performance by Jadeveon Clowney today.
Yeah.
He's measured in at 6'5" and 3/8, 266 pounds. He ran a 4.47 40, which was faster than any wide receiver or running back in the draft so far that they've put the measurements.
Yeah, it's
And
scary numbers. I don't remember what his reps were on the 225.
21, I believe, which is not a ton for a defensive lineman, but
Going, you're that fast.
his speed. He had a 10-yard, I think 10 maybe 15-yard shuttle time of 1.5 seconds as well, which is also very fast, and that's about the length it gets to a quarterback. His questions, desire to actually play well, probably took the year off basically at South Carolina this year trying to save his body. That's my opinion. I saw Jamal Lewis do that at Tennessee a few years ago. I guess, can't blame him. You have to stay through your junior year, but you want to go all out and risk giving up millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's tough to criticize anybody for not wanting it, especially after you see that horrible injury Marcus Lattimore had a couple of years ago that derailed what was probably going to be a first-round draft for him.
No, it's just, you look at what Todd Helton did when he was quarterback, but knew he was going to make millions of dollars playing baseball.
Oh, well, he quit the football team. He was starting in place of
he was starting
Jerry
over
Cope.
Peyton Manning.
Yeah, he was starting ahead of Manning. Took a pretty hard hit to his knee against Georgia. He ran a dive-in play out of bounds, trying to get a first down. A pretty gutty play by him. We actually ended up beating Georgia, because we always beat Georgia back in those days. But he hurt his knee and was like, I'm done with football. Can't risk this. It worked out. He made a couple of $100 million playing baseball. But I can't blame somebody for not going on as much as you want him to, and you're risking, you're looking at giving up. Clowney's probably going to, over the course of his career, if he doesn't get derailed by something stupid, I would say he'll probably make $50 to $100 million in his career, maybe more than that. But pass rush in the end, he'll have to play for the NFL minimum for his first 3 years if he can manage to stay healthy, put up to his potential that he looked like a couple of years ago at South Carolina. Defensive ends like that make $15, $20 million a year sometimes.
And shifting gears a little bit, spring training's about to start baseball-wise for the major league teams.
Well, the Cubs are in first place right now.
So are the Mets.
So you give it a week, that may change quite a bit. I'm a Cincinnati fan. They're okay enough to get to the playoffs.
I tell you, I saw a picture today. It was a Cubs-related picture. the Giordano's food truck was pulling into their spring training facility. So they were going to have good Chicago pizza while they were down there.
Yeah, that's very good pizza. But, maybe the Cubs will make a surprise run. I'm probably not going to happen, but it's been 100-something years, so you got a shot. I never understood it really. I mean, they have the resources. They have a big fan base. They take in
Large
money
TV
at the
market.
games, big TV money. You would think they would compete like Boston or New York Yankees, who I hate, or the Dodgers. For some reason, the Cubs don't quite put it together, and when they do get close, something stupid happens and ends up, forming another curse. They have about 12 active curses right now. Billy Goats, Bartman's, the fact that they're just the Cubs. Just a bunch of curses going, so you never know. I know there's a lot of fans. The Braves will be good this year. I don't like the Braves personally, but I'm sure they'll be good. They pretty much come close to winning or win the NFC East pretty much every year, and they get beat in the playoffs. I don't like St. Louis, but I expect them to be okay again this year. Then you have the other 27 or 28 teams that are pretty much probably going to be bad. That's just the way baseball works out.
Hell yeah.
You have a few people who spend lots of money and a bunch of teams that are bad that don't spend money. And occasionally you get a Cincinnati or a Pittsburgh Pirates who come close to getting into the playoffs or sneak into the playoffs, or the Florida Marlins like they did with pretty low salary caps.
Well, that's about all there is in the world of sports this week. I will say the best news in sports this week, Winter Olympics are finally over.
Yeah. No more ice dancing for you ice dancing fans. Hockey teams got swept out. The Canadians won their only glory. That should probably do it for the next 4 years. They're not going to win another Stanley Cup for any Canadian teams. That pretty much rotates between Chicago and Boston and
Pittsburgh.
Los Angeles, Pittsburgh, and unfortunately Detroit occasionally. But no Canadian teams have won it since they traded off Gretzky. Maybe that's a curse for all of Canada.
Gretzky was he was poetry on ice, and that was the Edmonton Oilers. I watched the documentary on that the other day on Netflix.
You're definitely watching lots of sports documentaries. Most of them terrible, but some of them chronicled.
And the owner of the Edmonton Oilers talked about the death threats he would get on a daily basis after he traded Gretzky.
If Canadians weren't so nice, they probably would have went through with it.
They are a nice floppy-headed folk up in Canada. They're very traditional. Fans, that'll do it for this week's Sports Chat. We'll see you next week.